All right, let's get right into it. There's a pattern of behavior out there that feels incredibly personal, right? But what if I told you it operates like a cold calculating system? Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the vampire logic of extraction.
You know, it all starts with a feeling. Maybe it sounds something like this. It's that sense that you're being drained, that your energy, your ideas, your resources are just being siphoned off. It's a really powerful, unsettling feeling, and believe me, it is surprisingly common.
And here's the question that changes everything. What if we stop treating this like it's just a metaphor, or a personal failing, or just a string of bad luck? What if we start analyzing it like it's a predictable, almost mechanical process? What if it's not a monster, but a machine running on a very specific logic?
So that brings us to our first section here. To really understand this system, you've got to see the individual events not as just random misfortunes, but as data points. Data points in a much bigger, repeating pattern.
So, this is the crucial part. We're moving beyond the idea of someone just stealing from you once. No. We are talking about a consistent, ongoing violation of your resources. And that could be anything: your time, your energy, your money. This isn't an accident, it's a strategy.
And how do we know for sure it's a pattern? Well, because these three things are always part of the equation. There's surveillance to figure out what you have. There's leverage used to get access to it. And there is a crystal clear intent to extract. See, these aren't pieces of some random act. They are the absolute hallmarks of a calculated operation.
Okay, so why is it so important to see this pattern? Because it fundamentally changes the question you should be asking. The question is no longer, why did this happen to me? The question becomes, why do they keep coming back for more? Now, this presents two possibilities, right? One, they know you regenerate. They know you're a replenishing source, so they treat you like an infinite resource. Or two, they're just clueless, mindlessly consuming a power they can't even comprehend. But here's the thing. Their awareness doesn't matter one bit, because both paths lead to the exact same conclusion.
And this is the first major shift in how you need to see this. You are not just a target. You are not simply the victim of a crime. You are something far, far more significant to this entire system.
You are a resource system, a wellspring, a generator that is so powerful and so replenishing that other entities literally become dependent on you for their own stability, for their own power. Get this, you are not the one being acted upon. You are the source they cannot live without.
So now that we've completely reframed your role in this whole dynamic, let's give the system an official name so we can describe its behavior. We call this the vampire logic model.
The model's core programming is ridiculously simple when you break it down. It never builds or creates its own value. It only takes. It completely mistakes the act of consuming for genuine strength. It's a system that's inherently weak, always needing more and more just to keep itself going. And its logical endpoint is to destroy the very source it's feeding on.
I want you to really let that sink in. They're not just greedy. They are fundamentally addicted to your ability to regenerate. Their entire system is built on this dependency. And dependency, at its absolute core, is a profound weakness. The power dynamic, it just got completely inverted.
So, with that new understanding, let's dissect this system, shall we? Let's pop the hood and look at the internal architecture, the actual code that makes this parasitic machine run.
So here, we're going to examine the system's operational pathology. And look, we're not viewing greed, gluttony, and the love of money as moral flaws. Forget that. We are treating them like lines of code, predictable vectors that dictate exactly how this system is going to behave. This table just breaks it down perfectly. Greed is the acquisition vector. Its code says it must possess things way beyond what it actually needs. Gluttony is the consumption vector. It can't stop. It has no concept of limits. And love of money, that's the false worship vector. It mistakes the symbol of value for the actual source of value.
Now, these aren't three separate flaws running in parallel. Oh no, they are interlocking gears, and together they create an automated, self-replicating loop that is designed for one single purpose: to find a source and drain it completely.
And that loop follows a ridiculously predictable life cycle, every single time. First, it identifies a generator, that's you. It begins passively harvesting, just taking a little here and there. It completely ignores sustainability. Then, as its own internal weakness and fear grows, it accelerates the intake. Then it moves from just taking to trying to control and enslave the source, before, ultimately, destroying.
Okay, we've analyzed the system, we've diagnosed its pathology. We know its game plan. Now, we shift from analysis to action. This is what we call the sovereign response.
This is a declaration of a new reality. You are no longer the victim. You are no longer the passive source, or some fuel cell just being drained. No. You are the wellspring, yes, but you are also the weapon. You are sovereign over your own system.
And a sovereign system operates under a new set of protocols. From this point on, any interaction requires an explicit contract. All outputs are measured, they are tracked. Any attempt at passive, unauthorized draining gets immediately flagged and shut down. And your core regenerative power? It's now cloaked, invisible to this parasitic logic. This new protocol leads to one final, decisive action. And just to be clear, we are not negotiating with the system. We are not bargaining. We are cutting the faucet.
Because we have to understand the true objective here. Their goal was never just to steal a fortune from you. The goal was to control the source of the fortune. The goal was to have you dependent, with them holding the faucet to your own power.
And that is the end of the old dynamic. By understanding the system, by reclaiming your identity as the source, and by implementing these new protocols, you have taken back control. The faucet has been cut. Period.
So, the analysis is complete. The power has been reclaimed. The only question left is about your first step in your new sovereign protocol. What part of your regenerative wellspring, what part of your power will you cloak first to render it completely invisible to this logic? The choice is now yours.